Today on Anxiety at Work, we'll think about how we got here. Some of us had happy childhoods with no trauma, while some of us went through a lot. And yet people in both categories struggle as adults, and people in both thrive. Why is that? I'm Chester Elton, and with me is my wonderful and dear friend, Adrian Gostick.
Well, thanks, Jess. Yeah, despite whatever difficulties we've faced in our past, every one of us can develop more resilience. We can learn how to better bounce back from setbacks and stay the course through tough times. That's what our guest today is going to talk about.
Our guest is our new friend, Joel Green. After retiring from his career in professional basketball, Joel founded Pro Level Training, which is partnered with Nike, delivering camps and training for youth athletes. Today, Joel not only runs Pro Level Training, he speaks to audiences and is also the national director for Nike Sports Camps. And if that's not enough, he's also a model and is about to release his first book, Filtering, The Way to Extract Strength from the Struggle. Welcome to the show, Joel. We're delighted to have you on the podcast.
Guys, thanks so much for having me on. Truly honored.
We're thrilled. And, you faced some pretty stiff challenges in your youth, Joel. So maybe help us understand your story a little bit. And one of the things that I'm really intrigued by, you say your struggle has helped you connect better with people. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, what the struggle does for so many is it humbles us. And I was humbled from day one, from the start. And, from growing up in an abandoned home, wearing everyone else's clothes, people from the neighborhood, people from my church, and just being aware of that early on, I was humbled. That was one thing when it came to me. Obviously, I didn't know right away when I was 4, 5, 6 years old that this wasn't the way for everyone. I just assumed, hey, this is life. Okay, I'm cool with it. Let's roll with it. Okay, our parents are coming in with trash bags full of clothes. We're sprinting over to the door and meeting them at the door. We're rifling through these bags. We're super excited getting this Mickey Mouse sweatshirt and all these used clothes. And these were new clothes to us though. So that was the way of life, and it was not in a safe environment either. I mean, we step outside of the house and different things are going on. This was amidst the crack era of the late 80s and early 90s. And this is in North Philadelphia. Again, growing up in an abandoned house, that just kind of tells you the condition. And our house next to us was also abandoned. A homeless guy lived there. And it was a burnt down home that I believe is still in the same condition, almost 30 years later. And so experiencing things like that, I was also 10 feet away from a shooting when I was 6 years old, and I was the only person there outside of the kid that got shot and the 2 shooters. I thought that I would be next. I thought I was going to get shot as I had escaped that situation at 6 years old. I'll never forget it. And it was just the scariest, one of the scariest moments ever, man, just to think that at that age, or at any age, let alone, I mean, come on, that you're going to be shot. And having a knife put out on me at 9 years old and called the N-word just because I was quote unquote in the wrong neighborhood, and just going through these traumatic things. I had to find a way to get beyond these things, and it was just, I didn't have any other option in my eyes. Fortunately, I carried that approach. A lot of it came from my parents and let me know that I have to continue to move forward. I cannot let these things hold me back. That's just life. Joel, they would tell me that this is just life, man. It's not perfect. But you must find a way to get on the other side of this thing. And then I lost my older brother when I was a teenager, tragically. And it's just like, man,
Yeah.
I have to find a way. Some of these things, they humbled me. They made me insecure. I became anxious. I had the different levels of anxiety. I'm like, what in the world do I have to do? And I just started channeling them. Channeling my feelings, the energy I had from them, the anger that I had, the sadness that I had, the happiness that I had. I just had to start to channel those things into my outlets. And that was the blessing that I got from it all. It was, okay, these things actually made me stronger in the end. I wasn't afraid of certain environments because I adapted to them. I developed a callous towards certain types of people because I saw evil early on, so that when I saw evil later on, it didn't throw me off course.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? I really appreciate you bringing your folks into this, that your parents were really encouraging. even in the toughest situations. And you've got an education in psychology, which is kind of interesting. You see, there's a big connection between sports and life, especially the way we think. You've shared a couple of things that you've learned there, but how as you got older and you got into psychology and you started to filter and process all that, what were some of the big lessons that you learned a little later on?
Well, I began to realize that, my body and my life follows my mindset. It really does. It follows my mentality. It follows my approach from the day-to-day basis. My outcome is just a byproduct of everything that I think about doing, to be honest with you. No metaphysical, anything that I'm talking about, but it's just really, I just had to adjust my mindset, and I realized I was able to adjust my life. And that's what I began doing. I just became more intentional about things I planned out, things I thought about. I didn't let everything in after a while. I put up an intentional wall, to a lot of things in life, to a lot of people. I made my circle much smaller, because it was when I was just open to everyone, then a lot of evils and just bad things got into the circle. And, my friends, hey, let's go here. And it's like, I know I shouldn't be going over there, so nope, I'm going to close my circle. I will be cool with you at school, but outside of school, I'm not hanging out with you. And I had to do things like that. My brothers, both my older brothers, I'm the youngest of four, by the way, an older sister and two older brothers. So I listened, I rely on my older siblings growing up. So if they say, hey, look, stop hanging out with this person or that person, I listen, or I got beat up at home or something, so it was like I had to listen. So, fortunately I had that in my corner to where even situations and circumstances where my older siblings got in trouble, they made sure I didn't get in trouble on that same thing. They just kind of took the hit. They took the L for me and said, okay, look, you're not going to, you're going to make it. And, I had that, and I grew up under two pastors, in the church, and my parents are ministers, right? So you can only imagine the level of faith that's being spewed at me every day, like faith, it's like, you have to believe. Look, I know this happened to you and that sucked, but you can persevere beyond it. And that really helped me out.
In your circumstance, you're talking about living in abandoned buildings and the danger and whatnot, and your parents being ministers. How important was it for you to have that faith base, that there was maybe something bigger and better out there? Did that have a big impact on you?
Absolutely. It gave me vision, to be honest with you. That was the main thing that belief system and that level of faith gave me. It let me see beyond where we were. And I know now that's exactly how my parents operated. No matter what we were living in, they knew that there was another side to this thing, called life. There was another side to this abandoned home. Okay, we may be here now, but our now isn't forever. And that's one thing to where I've had to coach people and speak to people over the years about letting them know you're not going to be where you are in that destitute situation forever. Now, yes, you will also have to be intentional about making moves and doing something to get yourself out, but realize right now isn't forever. And by having that approach, I picked up on it, on the way my parents operated. We weren't allowed to say can't. I got in trouble. I wrote about it in my book. Again, you just mentioned that. Just released my first book about a week and a half ago. And there's a story that's in there about how I got on punishment for saying I can't when I was 8 years old. And, I said I was sitting at the kitchen table doing some math homework, and I was not a fan of math at the time. And I can't
really?
do this.
Yeah.
Right. As any other kid, really, And I made the mistake, said I can't do something. My mom was in the kitchen, she was cooking something, and she said, hey, watch your mouth. So
like a swear word.
Right. Oh, seriously. And fortunately, my dad wasn't around, but he came in probably about 10 minutes later, and I yelled at this time. I kind of slammed my pencil down and said, man, I can't do this. And my dad said, what? And he kind of walks over to, I'm like afraid at this point. And my mom said, hey, what did I tell you about that? And so they told me to go up to my room and finish my homework up there, right? And so they were going to get, when we got fast food in the house, that was a treat. Like, usually my mom would make something. She was like making some snacks or something apparently, but she wasn't making dinner. When we got fast food, that was a treat. So there was a restaurant called Checkers, fast food spot. Yeah. And my dad went and got a bunch of Checkers chili dogs and, hamburgers, Champ burgers and all these things. And he brought them back into the house, for dinner. Called us all down to the dinner table. So we all sitting down together. He bought food for everybody except for me. I'm 8 years old, guys.
Oh, no.
And so I got up. He said, no, sit down. I had to sit and watch everybody eat like I was like the family dog, and it was just, I'm sitting there salivating but angry and crying. I'm tearing up crying in silence. And I was fast forward to I've never said I can't again. It was that serious in my household. And my son, who's 9, he's known that since he was 3. Wow. He's not allowed to say can't.
Well,
and that was the mentality I picked up on.
Well, I want to push, though, a little bit because, we all fail, though. We all try things, and maybe you just can't get that math problem. You do a lot with, Nike sports camps, and you got, somebody who's going to take 20 shots. They miss 20 of them. So how do you deal with failure, especially if you have anxiety, right? How do we embrace failure and kind of change our mindsets that way?
Realizing that failure is a midpoint. It's not an endpoint. That's one thing that has really helped me in business and life, just realizing there are going to be bumps, bruises, pits that you fall into, not just little pitfalls that you trip over. You fall into some pits and you got to, figure out, a way to get out of it. And that's the adventure. That's the beauty of it all, in my opinion. The process is so underappreciated. And that's one thing that I try to help people fix their minds on is the process of life. Like, it's not even that much fun to get from point A to point Z, right? If you just get there so quick, you miss out on the fun part, right? It's like, what's the Rocky series, the movies, without the montages of him training? The process, right. That's what we appreciate the most. And it's like, we don't even talk about his championship fights when he wins the fight. We talk about the montage. That's our favorite part of the movie. And I think people negate that.
It's funny because Rocky 19 is probably my favorite of all.
Exactly.
And the montage where he's using his walker,
Oh my goodness! I would not be surprised.
Right when you think he can't fight anymore, he can. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
You talk about the process. You talk a lot about your inner voice, and Adrian and I have done a lot of research on that too. What are you telling yourself? Why is it so important to have that positive inner voice? And can you walk us through your philosophy and what is your inner voice? What do you tell yourself when times are hard?
Well, I have to tell myself, it's the different cues that I have. One thing I learned in sports actually was, I used to, if I missed a shot, got a turnover, something like that, and I would pout almost. I would drop my head, hang my head, and the team is running down the other end, and they would score. Pretty much having a 4-on-5 situation because I didn't get back in time because I'm dwelling in the past. Like in sports, the past is like this. The past is every few seconds, right? So you have to quickly get over things. And I remember I was, a huge component on my team. So I couldn't keep letting my team down in that way. But I had high standards for myself. So I'm like, oh man, I missed a shot that I know I worked on hundreds of times this week. But my coach, he had to pull me aside. He said, look, he told me at practice this one evening. I remember. He said, look, here's what I want you to start telling yourself. The moment you miss, he said, tell yourself next play immediately. He said, because you have to refocus your attention to the present. He said, you live in the past for 1 second too long, it becomes detrimental to our entire team. Because now all of a sudden they have a handicap. We're handicapped on the other end. So I never forgot that. I was at 16 years old. And I tell myself to this day, next play. So immediately it brings about a level of awareness towards like, okay, I have to keep moving forward and stop dwelling in the past to where I'm now focused on adjustments to make as opposed to, the disappointments that occurred.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking a couple of weeks ago to our good friend Curtis Martin, who's NFL Hall of Famer. And
Curtis Martin.
Yeah, he's just an amazing human being too. And he says first 2 carries in the NFL, he fumbles. Playing for, Parcells, who, not known for being forgiving and warm and fuzzy. And what Parcells told him was exactly what you just said, those 2 words, next play.
Wow. I love it, man. And Curtis, man, I know his story. Amazing story. I mean, that's, to say the least. So
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't know Curtis, yeah, check out his story. So, hey, how can people learn a little bit more about your work, Joel, and what you do?
You can visit my website, joelbgreen.com. Yeah, I have quite a bit on there as far as my history, my past, and my present, and things that I'm also even working on. I'll begin putting those things up pretty soon so that people can see what's coming down the pike. I'm also on social media pretty heavy nowadays, especially, Instagram. I find that that's where I engage the most, and Facebook as well. Joel Green Official, and Instagram, J Green PLT, JAY Green PLT. Just those are the main platforms I'm on. Outside of the LinkedIn's as well, but I just
And
love
check
engaging
out
with
Joel's
people.
new book. Yeah, Filtering.
Exactly. Also on Amazon now as well. Filtering: The Way to Extract Strength from the Struggle. I put everything into that book. I've been writing for 6 years, for over 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow, good for
A
you.
whole lifetime of living though, and just realizing the patterns and the cyclic ways of life, and just trying to find some ways and methods to have in place when life happens.
I love that. And I love that it took you 6 years. Is that because so many people tell us, I want to write a book. And it's like, how do you do it? Well, why don't you just write a few paragraphs a day? Oh, it'll take me forever. Well, it took you 6 years, but now you have something that is your
Exactly.
calling card. That's your story. How great.
Exactly. And I start off actually the book letting everyone know what really made me take it serious in 2019. Something that took place in regards to my brother who passed away 17 years before that point. But in 2019, something happened. I said I have to get serious with this book now. It was already 4 years in to contributing to this huge Word document that I had, and there's already like 30,000 words in it. I said, okay, I got to get serious about this. People have been responding well to me speaking about the contents of my book. I said I have to put it in print, and thankfully I got serious about it.
Well, one of the things you talk about in there is this idea of kind of no excuses, where we train ourselves to make adjustments versus making excuses. So, help us understand that, especially if we're here in business. Most of the people listening are more business people. So how do you kind of apply that in the working world?
I'm big on valuing my time, guys. I mean it, and you can't get seconds and minutes back. Especially hours. They're really hard to get back. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time that could be productive on making excuses. I'm backtracking. I could be spending that time brainstorming or just trying to figure out some type of way to get beyond whatever may have just gone wrong or just wasn't right, whatever way you want to phrase it. So I'm big on finding ways to make adjustments, on pivoting, on just, being flexible. And, by having this emotional brainstorming take place by way of, again, filtering, it helps me. It helps me a whole lot. I'm able to just really break things down. I'm able to remove emotion from so much of what I'm going through because I realize for myself and for others, emotions clouds our judgment, especially while we're going through what we're going through. So the moment I'm able to remove a little bit of emotion, I'm able to see things a little clearly.
It's really interesting. You talk about that filtering and having that process, and you're a preacher's kid or PK, in your world, right? And PKs don't generally have a good rep,
No,
the preacher's kid a lot of times is the worst kid at church. So you've talked already about the influence of your parents and stuff, and you've talked a little bit about your coaches. Who are like one or two people over and above those that really had a big impact on you, that helped you with that filtering and really encouraged you to take that next step, to get to that next play?
Again, outside of my parents, there's two coaches in particular, too. I didn't only have coaches, had a number of mentors, but man, it's hard not to bring up one of my coaches in particular who he broke me. I'll be honest. He figured out where my threshold was. And it came at a point where I needed to figure out where my threshold was. Because I wanted to be great so bad, but I wasn't willing to push myself all the way there. The fact that I relinquished control by playing for him, he knew he had full allowance to do that for somebody that expressed to him, you want to be great. He said, all right, say no more. I'm going to make it happen for you. And we had a lot of meetings, just one-on-one meetings before I transferred into the school. He said, you told me what you want. I can do that for you. I said, all right, cool. Because I'm not just big on winning. I love winning, but I also want to individually be my best, right? And because at that point, I know I'm going to contribute to us winning if I'm my best. So I expressed that to him, and he made it happen. He had this whole one more mentality that I hated initially. I had a love-hate relationship with it because I knew what it was doing for me. But, he said, all right, let's get, 10 reps or 10 shots of a certain exercise or something. And I'm on my 10th rep of this bench press or something. I'm already going all out. One more. By the time I'm ready to rack it. One more. And all of a sudden I do 17 or 23. And I'm like, dude, you just told me we're doing 10. And I started to see myself grow so much faster, because we say 10, and that was like the standard across the country, across the world. Let's do 10 reps of this or 12 reps of that. But he made our standards increase, as opposed to, okay, they say 20-year-olds should be doing this at 12 reps. One more. You're going to be better than the average one. And he got that out of me, and everything was one more. All right, okay, you have to read. And I have to go to him and tell him, our assignments, right, for school. And he said, okay, you guys have to write, how many pages? 8? Okay, write one more. I'm like, dude, they said 8 pages. Write one more page. You have to read 20 pages tonight for the thing. Read one more. And, I apply that approach to everything now, man. I love what it's done for me. And it's helped me to develop, this is something I've written about called an NBA mentality. And that's a never be average mentality, an approach to where whatever I do, I'm looking to not just go about it in an average manner, because I know I'm not average. I know I have capabilities that can bring me beyond just having an average showing, rather. And this is with no arrogance, no conceit whatsoever. But I know what I'm capable of when I put my mind towards something. And so, that one more approach, man, it helped me so much to just embrace. I don't have to be average in a situation to where I desire to be great.
Love that. Okay, speaking of then the mindset, then what are your daily practices to keep your mental fitness right now?
Well, one thing I'm big on pursuing, I tell people a lot, I don't pursue happiness at all. I know there's a whole movie about it, and there's a lot of quotes and memes out there. But, I love pursuing fulfillment. Yeah, fulfillment is more important than happiness for me, because, happiness is like an end goal, I feel like so many times. Fulfillment is what keeps me going to even get to that end. Like, I'm not happy to wake up every morning at 4:30 or 5 a.m., but it's fulfilling. So I do it because I know where it's going to take me. I just do it again and again and again. So that's one of the practices I do. I wake up early. It's a very fulfilling thing that I do, and it makes me feel good from the start. I know I'm accomplishing something just by doing that, just by not just waking up, but actually getting up. Even sitting on the side of my bed, I know step number 1, I already accomplished something. All right, cool. And I wake up, I pray, and just kind of just have some mindfulness time for myself for a good 20 minutes. And, I'll either read or listen to the Bible, and I go ahead and I eat some breakfast, a small breakfast, and I work out. And after that workout, I really feel great, and my mind, my body has awakened by that point, and I eat a little bit more, So it's like at that point, I need to feed the beast, and I'm like, okay, let me eat a little bit more. And I wake my son up, train him, and I get to work after I take him to school.
That's great. That's great. Those routines, right? Those rituals really do help you get on track early and build some momentum. By the way, you're talking about feeding the beast. We don't have any video here, but behind him is this Cheez-Its box with his photo on it as a basketball player. You've arrived, right, Joel, when you got your picture on a Cheez-Its box. Yeah. Hey, great discussion today. If there's one or two things you want people to take away from the conversation, or one or two key ideas from your book, what might those be as we start to wrap up here?
Man, it's funny. It's something that crossed my mind. I forget what I was saying earlier, but I'll touch on that. I had a revelation recently, and I just began really thinking about it, guys. It's to the point where it's even changing business for me. It's changing how I'm parenting and everything. And just realizing that we as people, we weren't put here to make all of the bad stuff good. All right, in my opinion, I'm seeing more so than anything else. So much of the bad stuff was put here to make us better. You know, it's not that we're supposed to be trying to remove all the bad. No, we're supposed to embrace a lot of it and allow it to actually refine us, you know, and to improve. And that's one thing to where it has allowed me to complain so much less, because I'm like, it's supposed to be here. Life is supposed to happen. How can it actually assist me? How can I use it to actually make me that much greater? And so if I can leave anybody with that little mental shift in your perspective, hopefully it helps.
That's amazing.
That is
Hey,
amazing.
Joel, it's been great talking to you. He's got a new book coming out, Filtering, or actually it's been out for a couple of weeks now, but Filtering, the way to extract strength from struggle. You've been a delight. I know you're impacting all kinds of kids in your Nike camps. We didn't even get a chance to get to that. So thanks for, pulling yourself up and doing the good you do and being a great dad to your 9-year-old son there. It's been just a delight to get to know you, Joel. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, Chester, just such a powerful story from the very beginning. I mean, Joel had us, right, with the story of North Philly and what he went through. And I liked what he said. Look, he says, I saw evil early on. So when I saw it later, it didn't throw me off course, because we're all going to, whether we experience this like Joel did in his youth or we find it later, we're all going to find bad people out there, and we need to know how to react.
I imagine he's looking at hard times and saying, hey, I've seen way worse than this. Trust me on that one. I really appreciated the nod to his family and his faith, and he's the youngest and he had people looking out for him, and he didn't take that for granted. The thing that he said, too, as he talks to people is this is just a moment in time of hard times. Yeah. It's not going to be like this forever. This is a moment. You can get through this and you can move forward. It's a very powerful message for me.
And what I thought was really powerful too, just mom and dad teaching him, we don't say can't, in our,
you don't get the chili dog.
Yeah, you don't get the chili dog. That's pretty severe. But I remember, and we all do this, right? We want the best for those around us. Like, my son, when he was coming out of, high school, he takes the ACTs, he gets 98% on English. So where does dad tell him to go? Well, use that, right? He got like in the 70% in science. But after a year, he goes, Dad, I really like science. Yeah, but you're really good at this. We want to push people into what they're... Right. Instead of, sometimes we say, you can't, instead of I can't, right? And we got to get that out of our vernacular.
Yeah. I loved when he said, your body follows your mindset, and how important it was to get your mind right. Yeah. And that little victory in the morning, I get up and I'm sitting on the end of my bed. Well, that's one victory. And then... I read my scriptures and I have a little something to eat. And that to me was really interesting. Your body follows your mindset. Get your mind right.
Yeah. Yeah. Another mind thing too is that I loved it where Joel says failure is the midpoint. It's not the end point. And, the failure is part of the process. Enjoy it. And, you're part of the montage, right? You're running and you're sweating and it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky. His coach, that do one more, and that has stuck with him right till today. You get there, you do one more. And then, I think he got it wrong, actually. I'm pretty sure the NBA stands for the National Basketball Association.
Oh, yeah. You probably tell him next time.
Yeah. No, I wasn't going to tell. He's a lot bigger than me.
Yeah, he's 6'8". He's a big guy. He's a good-looking guy and very fit. So, yeah, he might kind of squash us. But, no, I love that. And, and I think this last thought, too, was really powerful. Look, we weren't put here on earth to just be in peace and happiness. There may be a time later when we can all enjoy that, but the bad stuff is put here to make us better. So allow it to refine us. I mean, wow, powerful.
It's here for a reason. And never be average. I think that's what he meant by NBA. Yeah, never be average. It is interesting, and Adrian writes these beautiful intros. It's why do some people come through and some people don't? Mm-hmm. Why do some people have all the advantages and fail, and why do some people succeed? And I think Joel's book, Filtering, is going to be really a great read for those of you that are listening about how you have that discipline, how it is just one more, how you get your mind right, how you look at things and say, yeah, but this won't be this forever. You can keep moving, you can keep pressing forward. And his life is a perfect example of that. It was just really a delight to hear his story, get to know him.
Well, it was such a treat. We want to thank Joel for coming on today. We want to thank our producer, Brent Klein, who makes order out of the madness that we give him, and to Christy Lawrence, who helps us find amazing guests like Joel. And especially all of you who listen in and help us keep these messages going.
Absolutely. If you like the podcast, please, share it with your friends and family. Like it, download it, give us a review. Dealing with anxiety and these trials in life, it's just so important to have good information and good advice. And we love speaking to audiences about anxiety and gratitude and culture. We speak literally all over the world, and virtually or in person. So if you're looking for a great message, like messages that we get from Joel and all the many people we've interviewed, give us a call. Christy Lawrence does all our booking for us, and you can find us at thecultureworks.com. And then lastly, we've got this great little community, thecultureworks.ai, where we've built a really safe community to talk about mental health and talk about troubles and trials and have that support group. Please, please, please join us.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. And until next time, we wish you the best of mental health.